All right, let's do a video that's just all about horizontal and vertical lines. So the basic thing that makes everything easier is understanding your slope, right? This horizontal line, it's the mouth of Mr. Slope Guide, has a slope of 0. When you're writing this equation for anything that has a slope of 0, that's anything that's a horizontal line, you're going to see where it crosses. And in this case, this one crosses at 2 on the y, right? You always look on the y for these horizontal lines. It crosses 2 on the y, so that means your equation is going to be y equals 2. This is true for any 0 line, right? If you have a 0 slope line that crosses at -4, then this equation is going to be y equals -4. You just have to remember that a horizontal line crosses the y, and that's what the equation is going to be. A vertical line like this one crosses the x. This has a slope of undefined, the nose of Mr. Slope Guy, and the equation is going to be wherever it crosses the x. And this, for this red line, it's x equals -2. Again, if it happened here, we'll just pretend that was a straight up and down line. Use this one. This one, since it crosses the x at 4, this one would be x at 4 for these vertical lines, right? This is the most basic thing and the most important. Horizontal is going to be y equals wherever it crosses. Vertical is going to be x equals wherever it crosses. So if you have a question that says to graph this, or it says what is the slope of this equation, you're going to think about it. You're going to think y equals 4. So I'm going to find my 4 on the y. And then since it crosses here, it must be a horizontal line on the 4. And if it's a horizontal line, then obviously the slope is 0. Same thing here. You're going to think x equals -3. I'm going to put a dot on x equals -3, and then I'm going to remember that if it crosses the x, if x equals -3, then it's got to be a straight up and down line, and that's going to be a slope of undefined. Right, all of these points here on this y equals 4, all of these points that are on this line is going to have a y value of 4, right? 4, right? -4, 4, -2, 4, right? These are all 4. All of these points are going to have an x value that equals -3. So if you have these 2 points, 2, 3, and 5, 3, and you do the slope formula, 3 minus 3, right? Y minus y over top of x minus x. Y1 minus y2 over top of x1 minus x2. 0 over -3. So that slope is 0. That slope is a 0 slope. So the slope is 0. So if it's a 0 slope, then that means it goes left and right. Right? And if we were to put these points here, 2, 3 would be here. 5, 3 would be here, right? If we were to connect them, you can see that that's a slope of 0. Right? So when your y's are the same, then it's a 0 slope. When your y's are the same, it's a 0 slope. For this one, my x's are the same. So I'm going to have 2 minus -4 over top of 5 minus 5, which equals 6 over 0, which means my slope is undefined because you can't divide anything by 0, which means it's a straight up and down slope. And again, if I put these, 5, 2 is here, 5, -4 is here. And so if I connected them, I would see that my line goes straight up and down. It has a slope of undefined. So when your x's repeat, or I mean, when your x's are the same, then that's an undefined slope. Those two things is just something that you're either going to have to visualize all of this when you get these problems and think about it and imagine what it would look like on a graph, or you're just going to have to remember that when the y is the same, that means it's a zero slope. When x is the same, that means it's an undefined slope. The last problem that you might see is something like this, where it asks for the equation, the y equals mx plus b, based on the slope and the point. So you could do all of the math, right? Y minus 3 equals 0 times x minus 2, and you'll come up with y minus 3. All of this is going to be 0, and then y equals positive 3, because you have to move this over. You can do all that math, and that's fine when the slope is 0. Just remember, if the slope is 0, then that means your line is going to be y equals whatever the value is. In this case, it's 3. So y equals 3. But you can do all this math if that's easier for you. The problem is on this one, when it's undefined, there isn't anything you can do except remember that an undefined line is straight up and down. Straight up and down. And if it's straight up and down, then that means that it's x equals something, right? If it's vertical, then that means it's x equals something. So you look at your point, and what is the x? The x is 4, so that means your line is x equals 4, because it has to go through the 4. I know it's a little tricky. I totally see that. And it's just a matter of doing practice and visualizing it. And again, the biggest thing is making sure you understand that this is a 0 slope and this is an undefined slope. And we'll do more practice on this, so don't worry too much.